president yesterday said that it should be that the Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter should be looked into as a potential threat to national security. Can you offer anything about why? And he also said there are many ways to look into that. How would you look into that?
Well, you heard the president yesterday, and the CFIUS process is the normal process through which transactions that might have a national security nexus get reviewed, and I will defer to the CFIUS process rather than comment on it further from this podium.
CFIUS stands for the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. It reviews national security threats emanating from business deals. That's what they're talking about there. Now, CFIUS hasn't investigated Hunter Biden because Hunter Biden is a good Democrat, so why would they? But who was that reporter who asked the setup question? Like I say, she works for an oligarch named Mike Bloomberg. He has some interesting views on China, let's just say that. I wonder if it's related to the fact that he's made huge investments in China. Take a listen to him. I'm going to play a full clip. This is just incredible. Mike Bloomberg talking about China.
So the United States currently accounts for about 15% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Yes. China accounts for roughly 30% of greenhouse gas emissions. How do we, even if we get to net zero, how do you get China, India, and the other countries to be good partners?
China is doing a lot. Yes, they're still building a bunch of coal-fired power plants.
And they're still burning coal.
Yes, they are. But they are now moving plants away from the cities. The Communist Party wants to stay in power in China, and they listen to the public. When the public says, I can't breathe the air, Xi Jinping is not a dictator. He has to satisfy his constituents, or he's not going to survive.
He's not a dictator?
No, he has to. He has a constituency to answer to.
He doesn't have a vote. He doesn't have a democracy. He's not held accountable by voters.
If his advisors
gave him, check on him, just a revolution.
You're not going to have a revolution. No government survives without the will of the majority of its people. Okay? It's just, he has to deliver services. The Chinese Communist Party looks at Russia, and they look for where the Communist Party is, and they don't find it anymore. And they don't want that to happen.
I mean, the idea that the Chinese government is responsive to sort of a democratic expression of fresh air,
come on,
clean
of course
air.
they are.
I mean, I'm looking at the people in Hong Kong who are protesting and wondering whether the Chinese government cares what they have to say.
Go back and read the days when you have big pollution in Beijing, and they're doing something about it. That's ridiculous. The trouble is you can't overnight move cement plants and power plants just outside the city that are polluting the air, and you have to have their product. So some of it takes time. And there's always in government, even governments that aren't what we would call a democracy, there's lots of stakeholders who have vested interests, and they have an impact. And that's why if you listen to the young millennials, let's go in and solve the problem overnight. Yeah, that would be great if you didn't have to fund it and get it through legal things.
So Xi Jinping, the dictator of China, is not actually a dictator. And again, he says this. It isn't a gaffe. It wasn't a misspeak. He's adamant about it. I mean, he wants more money. He doesn't have enough. And he'll say that Xi Jinping is a great Democrat, a great man of the people, because he's got big investments in China. Huge shout out to that reporter, by the way. Her name is Margaret Hoover, for pressing him on it. Good for her. You don't see a lot of journalism like that. Now, why is this all relevant to us here in Canada? Well, because most things in America are relevant to us because Twitter and Facebook and the rest of the big tech companies dominate Canada just as much as they dominate the U.S. And because Justin Trudeau is doing the same thing, accusing his political opponents of being in league with foreign enemies. They've even accused us here at Rebel News of being Russian spies. What a laugh. I remember when the media and the Democrats said that Donald Trump was the fascist bully who was threatening free speech. No, that was just them projecting. It's Biden who's taking on all the trappings of a fascist leader. And don't think Trudeau won't either, as his invocation of martial law proves. What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday, I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.